Hi, I'm Gary. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm looking at the 2024 Vintage Classics release of the Hawker P.1127 in 1/72nd scale. This was the test vehicle that was eventually developed into the world famous Harrier jump jet. Now, if you like the show, please do remember you can support the channel for free by subscribing. Hit the bell and you'll be notified of all my future releases. And remember, anything you like here, please do give it the old Imperial thumbs up on the like button below. Let's make a start with looking at the background of the kit. This kit was first released in 1963, 2 years after the type's initial flight tests were conducted. Within a year, the kit had acquired some classic Roycross artwork. It was marketed for a few years before being withdrawn and was not reissued until 2000, with new decals included. In 2024, it was revived again, this time branded as a Vintage Classics release, again with further updated decals. Let's have a look at the kit. We are then, the box of the Hawker P.1127, the predecessor to the Kestrel and thence to the Harrier jump jet. The artwork is Roycross, as usual, so it's the original Roycross artwork. It's a Vintage Classics kit, which gives us some heads up about what the quality might be like, or buildability might be like. Down here we have the product code A01033V. 01 says it's a Series 1 kit, and the V at the end says it's a Vintage Classics release, and it's in 1/72nd scale. If we have a look at this long side, traditionally this is where we have a little bit of information here. The mould tools were made in 1963, so what, 61 years ago, and the pack illustration was done by Roycross at the time in 1963. Enjoy the nostalgia, I think, is a little strong, because I'm not sure quite how much nostalgia you can enjoy sometimes with these kits, but they're a challenge and they're fun. A little bit of information about the aircraft there, and then right at the bottom here it says when it's complete it's 205mm long, 101mm wide, and 37 pieces. Not a big plane, which is also why it's a Series 1 kit. Here we have just a side view of one of the two schemes. They're essentially identical, it's just the numbers are different, and you can have the later one doesn't have the extended nose probe at the front. It's a skill level 1 kit, which for a Vintage Classic I think is a little ambitious. Now, yes, you can put it together very simply if you've never made a kit before. However, by the nature of Vintage Classics kits, they will tend to need a bit of work to make them look really good, generally speaking. But you can absolutely make this if you've never made a kit before. There's a reminder here of the existence of the Airfix Club, and of course there's a token for 1 flying hour. Now, if you've not seen these before, if you're a member of the Airfix Club, you can collect your flying hours together, and in the future you can get enough to get yourself a free kit, plus postage costs, of course. However, if you're in the club and you're not bothered about that, or if you're not in the club, or if you're not interested in flying hours, do please consider cutting these out anyway and sending them to Models for Heroes. A link to this very excellent charity is in the information box below. Now, slightly unusually for Airfix kits, normally this Airfix kits come as top openers, but because it's a Series 1 and a very small kit, this comes as an end opening box, much like the kits that are released of Audi and Lidl for Christmas and things like that. Anyway, as you can see here, this gives you all these stencil and markings, locations where they go on the kit, and the colour callouts, silver, it's all over silver. From the photos I've seen, it wasn't really shiny silver, so I don't know whether it was actually painted what they call high speed silver, which is a mixture of silver and white that had like a duller look to it, or whether it was maybe anodized or something. I don't know what the actual surface was like, but it will look like a silvery grey rather than absolutely glistening pure silver. And the Humbrol 11 actually approximates that surprisingly well. You can also use black, and you can use gunmetal for the heat shields here. Black for the interior, for example. Okay, that's all very good. Let's see what we get inside the box. As I say, it's an end opening box because it's a small kit. And there we go. So we have the instruction sheet. We have somewhere, yep, there we go. Decals, these are new decals made for this release. And we have a polythene bag with all the parts in it. And we'll have a look at all these bits and pieces in a bit more detail now. This being an old kit, you don't actually get numbered or named frames, of course. So the first bits of plastic we see are the two fuselage halves and the two halves of their respective wings as well. On this frame, we have the inlet fan, the main inlet fan here, which you'll be able to see through the side inlets. These inlet liners, these are the wheels, the wingtips. These are the deployed ones, so the undercarriage down, main nose gear, main gear leg here, a pilot figure, gear doors, and these are probably bits for the to fit the nozzles, so you can move the nozzles should you wish to, if you were to think this is a toy rather than a model kit, which to some degree they were in the 60s. Anyway, that's what you get on this frame, or part of a frame. The remaining part of the frame, you get the nose probe, you get the engine exhaust, you get the tailplanes. There's no separate elevators because these are all moving tailplanes. These pointy things are the tip wheels in the retracted position. Main wheels, ejection seat, and a few doors for the gear. And then the only transparent part in this kit is the canopy. Single piece mould, quite thick plastic, but clean and clear enough. And you can just about make out the lines of the framing, so you should be able to mask these if there are no masks available. Got a nice close-up look at the plastic. Very prominent rivet marks. I'm not sure how prominent they were on the actual aircraft. I don't think quite as strong as those. But I don't think they were, don't know if they were flush riveted or whether they were, I don't think there's sunken rivets on this aircraft at all. So they're more likely to be very slightly exposed. Remember, this was a development aircraft, not a final aircraft. So I don't know how much effort they put into making these things. I'd have thought they flush rivet most of the surface though. I'll have to have a look. Maybe I might need to sand those down. But the plastic itself is, it's modern Airfix plastic. It's quite chunky. The molds are quite chunky, as you can see. A bit devoid of any detail really, but they were in those early 60s kits. They were a bit devoid of detail, but relatively clean. Not too much in the way of flash or overrun or anything. Here's the wing here. Again, you can see the panel lines for the controls, or the control lines really, are very, very strong. All the other panel lines are raised, and there's quite prominent rivets. I can't be bothered rescribing these, to be honest. I'm sure some people will, and good luck to them if they do. Other tiny bits of flash here and there, but surprisingly sharp. Bit of moulding here that might make life a little easier. I have heard some horror stories about the fit. You can see it's a little bit lumpy here and here. Might just get those completely flattened out. But not too bad. A little bit of flash around the edge here as well. But really not too bad, considering its age. Pilot figure, it's okay. I mean, it's not terrible. It's not the best I've seen, but I've seen quite a lot worse from Airfix over the years. So, yeah, not too bad. More riveting on the door assemblies here. The undercarriage outriggers here are single pieces, and there's a little bit of mould lining around the edge of that tiny wheel, which might be a bit of a challenge to clean up. But otherwise, things look okay. Not too bad. Again, not too bad. see how all this goes together, of course, later on. But that doesn't look terrible. It's basic, but not awful. Again, that's the fan inlet. You see the way they used to do it there was just have raised lines, big chunky raised lines for the fans, rather than actually trying to model the fans at an angle necessarily. But once it's inside the model and painted up and with some black put in there to accentuate it, I don't think you'd notice a difference, to be honest. The decal sheet is relatively simple because this is a prototype and development prototype, and so there wasn't much it needed to have printed on it, other than, of course, the registration and data marks and the national markings. This is a brand new set of decals from Cartograph. Probably accounts for a large proportion of the cost of the reissue, but they are very, very sharp indeed. So they're very nice. This makes it all the more likely I'll be sanding down some of those rivets, so that the bumpiness of the rivets doesn't really detract from the sharpness of the decals, I'm thinking. Anyway, they look good, the colours look good. Looking in more detail here, the ejection seat triangles, very nice. These up here are the indicators to show through how many degrees the nozzles have been rotated on the engine, because these rotating nozzles were the key to the P.1127, later the Harrier's maneuverability and ability to hover. You could point the nozzles straight down. These black and white markings here, these are datum points for photographic records and movie records of the aircraft test. Here's like an electrical input signal here, I think like a 24 volt, I'm guessing, electrical input for starting her up and things like that. Colours on these markings are very good, very strong, very 60s look. They have just like a little more sort of brightness to them than the wartime ones. The blue is seems a little brighter, and red a little brighter as well. Just as a reference, this is again my standard 0.5mm pencil lead. So these lines around here are very, very sharply printed indeed. Very nice, very good. And then we have the instructions, quite flimsy A4 fold from an A3, presumably, or big, slightly bigger than A4. Anyway, folded over instructions, not much to it. Some very brief introductory remarks and specifications here in English, French, German, Swedish, and Spanish. Some basic assembly instructions here, translation of the icons in a dozen languages, and then the instructions themselves. Now, interesting points on here. Here, one thing is the pilot is painted up in white, so it's the test pilot would have worn white overalls, presumably. I think John Farley, wasn't it? I think did a lot of the initial testing of this. He probably did wear white overalls, not military overalls. You can do either, but anyway, he's got a Mae West on as well. Yellow life vest there. The parts are fairly basic, let's say. Well, they're extremely basic, really. This is no more than an exploded diagram because there are really not that many parts. They do say not to glue the inside parts of the nozzles to the fuselage. That's so you can turn the nozzles. There's no connector between the two on each side. So if you turn one, you've got to turn all four separately. But again, it's not really a toy. You could put it where you like. I will probably glue these in place because I know what I want the thing to look like. So that's the whole of the fuselage assembly there. The wings just go together in halves. There's no fuel tanks or anything like that. There's the canopy piece here, which they've highlighted in blue this time, and so to paint the surrounds in silver. There's an option of the full pitot nose or a blunt nose, and there's an option of two end caps, a straight through end cap and a vectored end cap as well. Wings go on, tailplanes go on, then the undercarriage and doors go on, and that's essentially it, whether you have it in flying mode or you have it in landing mode. So there's really very, very little to worry about on this kit. The worry is going to be more fit and finish than anything else. So that's the instructions. There we go. It's a very old kit and has some issues, but I'm confident I can get around most of them when it comes to the build. Now, if you've enjoyed today's video, please remember, do subscribe. It's a free way to support the channel, and if you hit the bell, you'll be notified of all my future content as well. Thank you so very much for watching today. Hope to see you again soon. Goodbye.